Good evening, guys. Welcome to Shadow Protection, a YouTube channel that will just tell horror stories. Feel free to like and submit for the channel, and this will be very helpful. And today I will tell you the Vatican's Shadow, Part 1, the base of Saint Florian. They say war makes you see things, but in 1999, in the border city of Ravnia, a soldier priest saw something no war could explain. On the arrival in Ravnia, Father Matteo Lucciero was not just a man of God, he was a Vatican-trained exorcist, combined with the military unit during the Balkan conflicts, assigned to provide spiritual aid and record of unusual phenomena. He thought that just meant trauma, guilt, maybe superstitions, until he reached the base of Saint Florian, a crumbled monastery done outside. The walls still wore murals of saints, but in their eyes had been scratched out by bullets and knives. The first night the soldiers warned him, "You will be hearing knocking between 3 and 4 a.m., said one of the corporals of Dobre. Don't open the chapel door, no matter what. Whatever you hear, the screams, the laughs, don't open the door." Matteo laughed. He didn't believe the base ghost stories. That night he prayed in the old chapel alone, surrounded by candles and the faint smell of iron and mold. At 3:12 he heard it. He froze. He wasn't coming to the door. He was coming from beneath the altar. The noise. By dawn the next day, he found the hatch hidden under the altar carpet, sealed with wax and rosemary threads. The soldier once told him the monks buried prisoners there, back when the place wasn't holy. He broke the seal. The air that escaped was cold, but not like air. It carried whispers, Latin words, distorted, repeated. He could recognize one of them. It said, "Absorb me." He climbed down with a flashlight. Stone walls were wet, carved with names, and there in the far corner was a chair, a letter, straps, chains, metal crucifix welded to the back of it, but the crucifix was upside down. When he touched it, every candle upstairs blew out at once. Base's powers flickered at the moment of darkness. The man above started screaming. Matteo ran upstairs as fast as he could. The corridors was throbbing, flicker by flicker, revealing figures and priest robes walking between the soldiers. No monks, no living. But their faces were smooth as melted wax. Each one held a mirror raised toward the living. When a soldier looked into one, he started convulsing whispers, prayers backward. Matteo shouted over the house, "Don't look at them! Don't look!" He grabbed his crucifix, the real one, around his neck and began reciting the rite of the liberation. And later, mirrors shattered, but instead of a glass, black smoke poured out of them. It crawled across the ceiling like ashes, then everything went silent, utterly silent. Even the wind outside stopped. At sunrise, the soldier was gone. Only Matteo remained, kneeling, bleeding from his nose, staring at the tape recorder blinking red beside him. The last words on the tape were his own voice, but slower, distorted, saying, "We open what was never meant to be, forgiven," and then a whisper behind his own words, "Not everything holy comes from heaven." When the rescue convoy arrived 2 days later, they found Father Matteo alone, holding a mirror covered with his cloth. He refused to let anyone touch it. He says the reflection inside still moves when the room is dark. And when he asked what he saw down the crypt, he only says it wasn't a demon. It was something the church buried and forgotten. I will continue this story in part 2, the reflections in Rome. Part 2 of the reflection in Rome. Father Matteo Luciero returned to Rome after the fall of St. Basilica. The Vatican called it a classified spiritual incident. They buried the report, never to be seen or spoken about again. But they couldn't bury the mirror. They carried it themselves, wrapped in black line, locked in an iron chest, and marked only with a Latin word called pietas, which meant mercy. Deep beneath the St. Peter Basilica lies the Archium Obscurium, a section of the secret archive. Objects that resist prayer. Matteo descended the spiral stairs with Cardinale VIII, his superior, the man who ordered Saint Florian abandoned. VIII, shouldn't you have brought it here, Matteo? Some sins echo forever. Matteo said, "Then maybe it's time the church." Here's the echo. They reached the vault by flickering bulbs. Shells of relic whisper faintly as the air passed in them. Bones, jars, ashes that rather without being touched. He set the chest on the table, the lining inside the temple, like a breath under the fabric. But VIII wanted proof. He ordered Matteo to read from the book of Lamentations while facing the cover mirror. At verse 13, the bulb overhead burst. A faint reflection appeared in the lining, not of the room, but of a shadow, a monastery, and shapes moving between the graves. VIII stepped closer. "Is that Florian?" he said. The linen slid off on its own. The mirror. Saint Florian appeared again, perfectly intact, yet inside figures, priest, walked backward with their face dissolving into white smoke. Then one of them turned towards Matteo and gave him a grave smile. A voice spoke from the mirror. Matteo's own voice, but deeper, distorted, evil and cruel. You prayed to us once. You buried us in your holy wars. Now we remember. The floor shook. Books fell. Vieri stumbles backwards, as crawled up in the Middle Age, spreading across the vault. Matteo grabbed his crucifix, shouting a blessing, but the cross froze solid in his hand, skin tearing when he dropped it. The reflection leaned closer until the surface cracked. Behind it, 1,000 pale hands pressed onward. Vieri screamed, "Close it! Close it!" Matteo slammed the lid, chanting what words could remember, sealing it with blood and breath. And then silence. Then one final sound from inside the chest, a bell clean. The Vatican sealed the vault. Father Matteo was confined for evaluation, but the guards say he still prays to the chest at night, and sometimes he answers, "Come back." Whispers like two voices speaking to one mouth. They moved the mirror to new location, unlisted, unblessed. But the last week, the power in the north wing of the Basilica failed for exactly 3 minutes and 12 seconds. When the lights returned, a message was scratched into the marble wall outside Matteo's cell. Absolve me, or join me. I shall continue this in a part 3, which will be called The Chore Beneath the St. Peter. Part 3 of The Chore Beneath the St. Peter. This will be the third part. The Vatican's shadow. The Vatican does not speak of what lies beneath the Basilica. Not the catacombs that tourists visit. Deeper, more inside. Beneath those tunnels, carved in silence, are chambers older than Rome itself. Only a few of them and fewer return unchanged. Father Matteo Siero was one of them. After the incident with the mirror, he had been confined for months. The church called it a spiritual observation. Matteo himself called it a prison, made of marble and gilt. He kept his rosary near. Every time he tried to pray, the words fell wrong. He began to dream in Latin. He didn't understand verses that weren't from the scripture, but from something much older. Something older. Something unholy. Then one night, the dream stopped all of a sudden. Instead, he heard singing, faint, soft, and impossibly deep beneath the earth. A chore of men voices, all singing one word, in unison. Absolve me. Follow the sound through the dim corridors until he reached a sealed gate leading to the ancient sub-basement of the same basilica. 2 Swiss guards stood there, both pale, both trembling. One of them whispered, "It's been singing for 3 nights, Father, but you're told not to open it." Matteo looked at them, his eyes hollow but calm. "You already open it in your hearts," he said quietly, and pushed the gate open. The Swiss guards were shocked. Inside was a darkness, alive and breathing. Candles lit on the walls, melted to numbs, their flames bending towards the same direction. The great chore hall once used by monks centuries ago. The air smelled like iron and met Matteo. He seemed the steps one by one, and each echo of his boots was swallowed almost instantly, as if the darkness wanted his sound for itself. Then he saw them, 12 figures, all of them kneeling in a circle, their heads bowed, their faces covered by veils. Their robes were priestly but blackened and damp, as though pulled from water. In front of them was a cracked mirror, much smaller than the one from St. Florian, but identical in design. And it was humming like a heartbeat. The reflection inside didn't show the room, it showed the Vatican from above, from below, as though the image was looking up through the stone. Matteo spoke softly. "Who are you?" All 12 lifted their heads at once. Their mouths opened, but no sound has came out of it. Only a vibration, deep like the throat of the earth, that made the candles flicker and burst. The single voice rose above the rest, the one in the center. If it wasn't human, it was thousands of voices speaking through one shape. "We are the chore that sang God of the silence. You buried us when we stopped answering." Matteo stepped closer a little bit, heart hammering. "Your Eminence, spirits bound to fate. Tell me what you want." The veiled figure raised a hand. The skin beneath the robe was translucent, veins like cracks in ice. "We want warmth. We want forgiveness. We want you." The mirror shimmed. His reflection moved without him. It smiled. Then it pressed a hand to the glass, and the hand pressed back from the inside. Matteo stumbled backwards, clutching on his crucifix. The figures began to chant faster and louder until the word absorbed, turned into a roar. And the mirror came a sound that made his blood stop. A heartbeat, slow, heavy, metallic. The mirror was alive. Matteo turned and ran. The guards outside saw him emerge covered in frost, whispering words that made no sense. When they entered the hall a minute later, the mirror was gone. Only the 12 robes remained, arranged neatly on the stone floor, still wet, still breathing faintly. In the weeks that followed, rumors spread around the archivist. At night, when the wind blew through the basilica, they swore they could hear faint singing echoing through the vents, 12 voices in harmony. And Matteo's locked chamber. On the wall beside his bed, frost began to bloom, on the shape of a handprint 5 perfect fingers pressed on the inside of the wall. He no longer sleeps, he only listens, waiting for the next word from the shore. And this summons up our part 3, to be continued in part 4. The 13th voice. The Vatican Shadow, Part 4. The 13th voice. A radio transmission intercepted by the Vatican surveillance team. A soldier's prayer whispered through static from the war-torn border city where Father Matteo once served. The voice was trembling, repeating one line over another. But the only thing you could clearly hear was, "Forgive us for what we let out." The signal came from the ruins of San Basilica St. Florian. The base Matteo had left behind months ago. He didn't need permission. He packed his crucifix, his pistol, and his silence, and went back. The city was unrecognizable. Smoke rose from the hollow buildings, windows blackened like empty eyes. Even the crowds were gone. The only sound was the wind was dragging something in the mud across the pavement. The old chapel bell broken, loose and ringing without rhythm. Matteo entered the base of the chapel. Everything was as he's left it. The altar split, the wall scratched with Latin scripture, the mirror was gone. His place was a shape on the floor, a ring of ashes, feathers, and a faint smell of boiling incense. It felt before him. He saw it, the pressure, air, heavy as a storm, whispered, clouded. Then the footsteps behind him. He turned around quickly, and the 12 soldiers stood there, their uniforms shredded, their eyes white as bone. No ghost, not yet. Something in between. They began to speak in unison. The chore was sung again, Father, but once. One voice was missing. The 13 must answer. Matteo's hand shook on the crucifix. "What do you want from me?" he said. The soldiers stepped aside. Behind them the mirror appeared, fractured but alive. Something was pushing it against the cracks from the inside, trying to escape. "But it followed you home," one soldier whispered. The 13th voice, "It's yours," he said. The mirror pulsed like a living heart. Matteo felt his own heartbeat sink with it, slower, deeper, louder. The edges of his vision began to fade. He saw flashes. The shore beneath St. Peter. The veiled figures kneeling in frost, and behind them a door, not made of wood or iron, but of sound. Each heartbeat was a knock, and the mirror stopped vibrating. The crack sealed the reflection shift, showing not him, but the Vatican. From beneath the earth again, and there the reflection, another Father Matteo stood, but he was different. He was smiling. The soldiers fell to their knees, whispering, "The 13 has spoken." Matteo stumbled backwards. "No, no, that is not me." But the mirror's voice, his own, spoke softly. He opened the gate in a prayer. You closed it in guilt, and now you will keep it in silence. His crucifix burned hot against his chest. He tore it off and threw it to hit the mirror, and the world went black all of a sudden. When the Vatican reached out to investigate, the investigations reached to the ruins. 2 days later, they found the chapel empty, no bodies, no mirror, just a single Latin phrase carved into the altar, still fresh. Vodecima tertia expected. The 13th voice awaits. And beneath the walls, 12 sets of footprints leading away in the snow. Only 12. That night, bells of St. Peter rang by themselves. No one was in the tower, and deep beneath the Vatican, where the choir had once again sung, a new voice joined them. A perfect 13, singing in Matteo's tone. The walls began to hum. The frost spread again, and the mirror was seen one last time. In the Pope's private chapel, beneath softly in the candlelight. To be continued in part 5. This will be the last part. The Vatican showed of part 5. The mirror of flesh. For 6 days, the bell of Rome did not stop ringing. No one pulled their ropes. No one could find where the sound began. It seemed to come from the sky and from the ground beneath. But on the 7th day, they rang once more and stopped forever. The Vatican declared a system of malfunction. But inside the archives, the truth spread like a whisper through the marble halls. Mirrors across the city had begun to fall on their own. Fractions were not matching their owners, and one by one, priests were reporting dreams of voicing it through the glass. Only one man could understand it, but Father Matteo Lucero had vanished. His chamber was sealed, his walls was covered in frost, but the center of the room, investigators found a single object, a small hand mirror wrapped in lining. Its surface cracked faintly, revealing it was warm. Cardinal Orsini, head of the congregation for the doctrine of faith, ordered immediately contaminated. The mirror was placed in the Sanctum Oscura at the Vatican's underground vault. but objects too scared or too dangerous was kept from the light. Only Orsini and two others had access. For the first week, all was calm. But when came the reports, workers in the lower tunnels began hearing a soft chant beneath the stone, not Latin, something older, a rhythm that matches their heartbeat. One guard opened the vault to check on the mirror. He was found hours later, sitting in front of it, eyes open with unseeing whispers. Over and over again, it's learning to look back, he said. The next day, Orsini ordered the mirror sealed. When a lead inquiry take place within the catacombs, surrounded by relics of saints long dead. Every candle went off at once. Through the pitch of dark, a light began. The shiver from the inside of the liquidity, a pulse, then a voice. Absolve, absolve, absolve. It wasn't one voice, it was 13. The chore found its body. They tried to bury the vault. They tried to drown it in holy water. Flooded with light, the mirrors all over the Vatican began to fog at the same time. Even the reflection in the eyes of the saints, statues, symbols, the ripple, the reflection of Rome itself began to shift. Those who stared too long saw another city beneath the first, built upside down, made out of bones and glass, where every light burned blue and red. In that reflection, Father Matteo was walking calm, barefoot, carrying the mirror. Cardinal Orsini's final letter, locked away, never published, was found later in the archive. It read, "We did not silence the chore, we became it." Every prayer and the echo, every reflection is a mouth waiting to speak it back. When you look into the mirror and you see yourself blinking twice, run. It means it remembers you. To this day, the pilgrims sometimes report hearing faint singing sounds beneath St. Peter Square late at night. A harmony of 13 voices, and occasionally, when the fountains go still, the water shows a reflection that lingers half a second too long. No one knows if Father Matteo died, or a seed, or it was claimed. But every year, on the anniversary of the signed bells, one candle reunites itself inside the basilica. In its waxy surface, if you lean close enough, you can see the shiver of a tiny mirror and a face smiling faintly within. Not this, yours. The end.